So we've selected enough to make a couple of crude pots, and I saved the rest for another time in case it's really good clay and we'll use it again. So I'm just going to fill up our bucket here with water to get this all sludgy, and then we'll strain it after we mix it up into a slurry. We'll just let it soak for a little while and let it get nice and saturated. You can definitely see organic matter floating to the top and the air getting into the clods. So we'll just break up the clods and get it nice and suspended in the solution of just the water, and let it sit for a while, and we'll check it later and give it a good straining. So we've stirred this up until it's dissolved, and I'm going to pour it through this sieve. I wanted to get a screen that was a little bit let more in, so I'm not sure how well this is going to work, but we'll give it a pour and see what happens. It's really going through quite well. You can see all the organic matter that's left behind. I still have some undissolved parts in here that I'm going to mix up a little bit better and then pour the rest of it in there. Yeah, here's this. Oh, well, that didn't work. I'll have to try again. So this is quite a bit of sand and grit in what's left here. So we won't include that in the clay. Sometimes we may have to add sand back in, but we don't want this much in there at this point. So out of our lumps of clay, this is how much we are discarding. That is not going to be helpful in our clay making. So once we dump that out, we've got our mixture back in our plastic bucket, and we're just going to let it settle and pour off the liquid off the top after several hours. I just discovered something highly interesting. I just went to dump out the stuff I sifted out of the clay, and I dumped it over into the area by our pond out here outside our house, and I was looking at the banks of that pond, and I discovered some yellowish clay. So let's go get it. I'm super lucky that we've got another beautiful November day that's in, it's in the 40s or 50s right now, and I want to get all this stuff done before next week when it starts to go below freezing, and it's just not quite as fun. But this whole area all around used to be a gravel pit, and now it's under development in the city of Maple Grove, and I've lived here for like 5 years, and I have never gone down to the pond to look for mud, and it's quite easy. I guess clay really is just about everywhere. So as we go down, it's not too far to get down to the pond. This really is a drainage pond, so the level fluctuates quite a bit, and sometimes this shoreline is completely under water, so you don't get to see it. But look at these nice layers, and right here, look at this. We've got a nice layer that looks like it could be clay-like. So I'm going to sample some of this and see what we can get out of this section. This was a sand and gravel pit for years, so it might not have the same sediments as you would get along the Mississippi River, but it's worth a try. Unfortunately, I think this is an epic fail here. This is probably too sandy. You can kind of see how much sand is in there. So I took a little bit and I'll process it and just see if there's any in there that's comes out as clay. I think I hit it lucky yesterday. This probably is too sandy, but perhaps I'll process the sand here and add it to my other clay, because you need about 20% sand in your clay in order to keep it from drying or heating up too quickly when it is in the kiln. You have a much greater rate of cracking. Actually, there's some other stuff right next to that layer that's much more mud-like, much more plasticky. So I'll take a few balls of this and give that a try as well, because one way you can tell if you're finding clay is if somebody's footprint just kind of stays in shape. And someone else stepped here a couple days ago probably, and the footprint stayed. And as you see the way they slid down right here, yeah, that has much more clay texture to it than this layer here that had more sand. I was hoping to find some yellow clay color, but I guess we're going to keep with this darker brown color. And we'll process that separate and see what we come up with. Well, I traveled off a little of the darker stuff and found this lighter clay color, and I took some samples of that too, so maybe I can get some yellow material to make a yellow pot and see how it fires differently than the brown clay. A lot of Minnesota is actually clay soil, so underneath all the beautiful green turf, dig down a little ways and you'll hit clay. But I'm not going to do that here. And my daughter said I couldn't do it in her yard either. So I've cleaned off my patiche and my trowel, and I'm going to lubricate it with some knife oil on all of it, just as a protection layer to keep it from rusting worse than it already is, and just to keep it from drying and cracking out. Yeah, this is a great trowel size for a small person like me. I really enjoy this edge and everything. It really, you can scrape a lot of dirt away with that one. And this is a small weight one for me, and it's really super great. Super easy to do. Just sprinkle it all over it. Take any old paper towel and just wipe it all over, and leaves protection on there. Make sure it's dry first, and it really is good for the handle. A lot of times you're using your patiche in dry environments and it's going to crack, so you can just rub it in and protect your tools that way. Now with a plastic handled Marshalltown, you don't really need to protect it, but it does clean it somewhat, so I just use it on everything, and kind of makes it look new, but not really. You don't want it to look too new. It's like you didn't do anything with it, but just a way to keep it from rusting too bad, and just keeps it in good order. Now, doesn't that handle look better? Looks great. Okay, we're going to pour some of this off, and since I can't hold the camera and do it at the same time, I'll show you what it looks like after I pour some of the water off. Okay, here we go, pouring the water, and we'll just keep pouring it until you start seeing the clay itself getting too close to the edge. But yeah, it really settled a lot, and it gets a lot of the organic parts going off too. After pouring it off, I see a lot of the organic material didn't really drain off. So I am going to let it settle a little bit more, and then I'm going to skim it off because I don't want it in the clay. I have a little tea skimmer. Probably my husband won't appreciate it since he likes to use it for making tea, which is our morning custom. This one has white tea. Oh, I see I need to pour it out. White tea ready to go. Anyhow, I'm going to use his strainer here and skim off the extra organic debris in there. Well, I strained out the organic material and looking pretty good. And I think I need to let this settle for a lot longer because there's still quite a lot suspended there. All right, this was sitting overnight. I poured it off a little bit yesterday. I didn't record it. But so now we have like an inch of the clay, and there's some water I'm going to drain off. And later this afternoon or tonight, I'm going to pour it into the cloth bag and finish it off.
Breathe.
Okay, here goes. And you can see the fine particles. It's kind of cool. The water just pours off and the clay stays in there. So you got to do it really carefully so you don't start dumping your clay in. Just let the water go real slow. And yeah, just do it until it gets right up to the top, and then we'll just let it sit some more. Stop it there. You can see it's getting thicker. You can see the mud there. Ooh, that's going to be good. Okay. So it's been 2 days since we first collected our clay, and I decided that it's getting to be pretty thick, and if I don't pour it now, it'll be getting too sludgy in the bucket and be harder to get it out. So I got myself a strainer, and I'm going to put this cloth into it, and then I'll just pour the mixture into the cloth, and we'll let the water drain out, and we'll have our little blob of clay. Let's see what happens. First, I think I better stir it and get it as suspended as possible so it's pourable. It's starting to get kind of stuck to the bottom, so see, it's a good slurry consistency. Yeah, I think this is going to be some good clay. I've got some high hopes for what this is going to turn out to be. So I'm just going to stir it a few seconds, and then I'll pour it into our strainer. After 3 days of drying in the cloth, which I think is a little too thick, I might try something different next time, we have a little lump of clay here. It's still it's much too wet to work with. It just sticks to the hands. So I'm gonna let it keep drying, and then I'm gonna knead it and add sand. We'll measure how much clay we have, and then add a proportionate amount of sand to make it pliable, and we'll see what we end up with. Dominic is going to give us his opinion of the consistency of our clay that we collected along the Mississippi River. Okay, what do you think?
Sticky, very sticky. It's kind of smooth, slimy. It's cold. It's when you keep it's really sticks, and
So what would happen if you tried to make a pot out of it right now? What do you think would happen?
it'd probably be way too messy, and it'd kind of just stick, and probably just not. It wouldn't like make a good shape of a pot. It wouldn't it'd kind of be hard to get it onto the wheel, and when you try to slide it, it'd probably just get you got a lot more clay on your hands. It's definitely not ready to be used for the for pottery right now or anything. It obviously needs to be like dried more, or really has to we gotta figure out a way to make it less sticky.
I decided to get my own sand for the project rather than buy some, since we live in a former quarry. And our pond is starting to freeze over, so I thought today would be a good day to get a little bit of sand off the beach. And so I have a bunch of sand that I just scraped up, and so I'm going to be using that for the project. I'll dry it out and see. It looks like it should be about the right consistency. So that's what we're going to use. Once that's dried out, we'll mix it with the clay and make a pot.